Are there advantages to aging? Yes, I am Debbi-Jo Horton, and welcome to Advantages to Aging. Join my guests and I as we discuss aging and what makes for a healthy lifestyle, which results in a quality life. Thank you for joining me today. Welcome, listeners, to another episode of Advantages to Aging. I'm your host, DJ Horton, and today I have with me Wallis Pattisonn, the founder and CEO of Bold Not Old, and I cannot wait for you to hear what she has to share. Welcome, Wallis.
Oh, thank you, Debbi-Jo, for having me on your show. It's a pleasure, and I hope that your listeners, gain something from, some of the things that are going to be said here today, including from yourself and me. Things always come out when people get together and chat.
That is so true. That is so true. And today we're going to talk about the silver economy and why, first off, what is that and why does it matter?
Well, it's a bit of a drawn out, longer story around it, but I'll try and sort of, bring that back to something much shorter. So I guess, if I say that it's a phenomena, it's because we have an aging population. And this is, I don't know whether it probably is, I would say, the first time in our history that we have such an occurrence. And it's because we have a huge, massive number of people aging that will turn 60 plus. And that's happening as we speak. So we have a lot, and I mean a lot, of the percentage of the population across the world, not just in developing countries, but in other emerging countries. The same thing is occurring. We just simply have this aging population that has occurred because and they call them the baby boomers, not because it's a tag they gave them to be really, really kind. We're called the baby boomers because we were booming. There was lots and lots of babies being born around 1946 to 1964. We just had this massive population explosion, and now, of course, we're reaping the rewards of that, and we have done. From an economic viewpoint, we've reaped the rewards of having a massive group of people who have driven economic growth. And there's no doubt about that, because you can talk to any large companies, you can talk to anybody that's been marketing for the last, whatever years. It's been a huge area of concentration for companies and brands to market to, because the baby boomers were unique insofar as they came along, they acquired housing, they lived lives. I'm not going to say they lived these amazing, spectacular lives, but some of them did. But they acquired things. They lived a life where it was booming. It is a boom time. So they lived in that boom time. They developed our economies in that boom time. So everybody benefited by that. So then they're now aging. So we have a change in that. And what we have is a lot of those people retiring. So we've got this retiring area, people who are used to having a standard of living, I'll call it, and those people want to sustain that. They want to maintain that. As I said to someone the other day, it's not about, I just want more of what I have, meaning more, more, more. They just simply want, baby boomers, myself included, people want to have and maintain their life. They want to retain what they already have. And to do that, we've got a massive changing economy. So we're not in a position where most of us can go, we have to redefine retirement, is what I'm saying, because we no longer are in a position where we will be able to live off the nest egg or the money or the drawdown on the houses, because most everybody at that age by now probably owns their home or a number of them. And they want to be able to, sustain a life that they've lived. Now, that doesn't mean that there was a belief for a lot of years, and I used to hear it, that the baby boomers were lazy buggers and they were all going to be sitting on beaches of the world living off social security or whatever, and or pensions or whatever, and they were going to be sipping pina coladas, and they were going to be draining the economy. Well, that is just simply not true. That's a load of rubbish, because you have a lot of people who were driven. They were driven then to get what they wanted. It was after war. It was tough times, coming out of washing their clothes in wash tubs to getting new appliances and things. There was a big growth in industrialization. So, if you come through that time, and I always say to people, just stop and think about things historically, put them in their historical context. Those people we came through, when I was a kid, we were washing our clothes in a concrete tub. And it wasn't that we weren't well off in Australia. My family were quite well off, but there just weren't things available that came as we got a bit older. By the time we got to the 1950s, my mother was getting the new fandangled washing machine, as she called it, with the ringer on the top, and and fridges, and instead of ice boxes, and life took on a whole new meaning. So we came through those times, and times were tough also. So, people acquired things, they got things, they put themselves on their feet. It was a big, huge, as I said, economic growth time. So we were in a position where we developed a life, and we want to sustain and maintain that life for ourselves. But the difference is that we also want to make a difference. We see what the issues are. We understand about communities, because most of us were brought up in communities, not Facebook, not all the things that are available now. Communities of people. We knew everybody in our street. We knew everybody in probably the next 4 or 5 streets around us. We were a community, and that community helped each other. If somebody was sick or fell on hard times, people would turn up at their door with the food or the grocery or whatever was needed. So we understood about community. We understood about what communities need and how communities work together. So we're very aware of that. We didn't need Facebook to do it, or create some community for ourselves. And I think that's why that flourished, because people didn't have a community around them. They lost touch. So the silver economy is now an economic area that is catering specifically for those aging people in the areas of health, wellness, clothes. Everything you could think of is now a huge, massive economy designed to keep those people in their homes, comfortable, infrastructure, you name it. Everything you look at is being designed.
Well,
Food.
that's so true. So a lot of those people, out of the necessity and those hardships, were part of that transition to those newfangled washing machines and everything
Correct.
else. And
Correct.
and from that, they bore other generations that are just adding to that. But sometimes, not always, but sometimes those generations that that are now kind of in control of what is out there on the market sometimes forgets about the silver economy. And you're so right about the fact that people want to age in place. And the smart companies and the smart business people are going to help to create ways to have that happen. But correct me if I'm wrong, are those people in the silver economy still wanting to make money and to make a difference that creates a legacy that's worth leaving?
Oh, correct. Absolutely. Yeah, they are. There's many, 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 and it's the same old, same old. Not everyone, of course. There's those that are, happy to put their feet up and sit back and survive on or live on whatever. They're geared for that. But there's a massive, massive amount of people in that area that they'd like to keep working. They would like to keep working, but they don't want to work at the pace that they worked at because there was a reason for that. They paid for houses, raised families, put kids through school. That's all done, dusted. Now they would still like to be working, but they don't want to be working full time. They're not driven by the same things. They'd like to do work. They'd like to be of value. They'd like to feel of value because they've been of value. It's not like being of value just... I don't know. I don't know what it is with society, but suddenly we've got this situation where I look at it as we get older and I look at it and I think, what? What happened? You don't think that we've got any feelings anymore? You don't think that we're really people, that we're human, that we don't have those human feelings and those human traits that we always had? Where did you think they went? Did you think as we age, we lost them? Of course we didn't. We want to feel a value. We don't want to be not seen and not heard.
Mm,
We've
right.
got value to give. We've got lots of things to say. We've got input. We want to be of value. You can't put an old Debbie. You cannot put an old head on young shoulders. So, here we are. We've got this situation where you've got all these young people and you've got these companies and you've got all these things happening. But if you go and do a bit of research and look at the amount of people older who are starting businesses and who are starting things for themselves, those things in general are far more successful than the young startups.
Well, and for many reasons. One, they have a lot of experience, but
Yeah.
two, they're also realizing that the silver economy has the bulk of the spending money.
Yeah, you betcha. You
And
betcha. And
why
that
wouldn't
hasn't
you?
that hasn't diminished
No.
because, as I said, older people are now going, okay, well, I've always had this. To a certain extent, baby boomers and these people are hustlers.
Yeah. And
They'll hustle.
they're not just looking at like ways of being able to age in place, but they're also looking at what business can I create that's going to positively impact the world.
Correct. Correct. And there's a lot of those happening. There's a
Hmm.
lot of things happening. Even I do constantly. I'm constantly looking at one, how do I do things and participate in ways that are fulfilling for myself, me first, because if I'm not happy, then nobody else around me is going to be happy.
True, true.
So I look at one, and I've been doing that with Bold Not Old. Bold Not Old's been going about probably about 6 years now, and it's been a constant change. It's been a constant morphing. Sometimes I've felt a little guilty over that in a way because I feel like, well, it's changed so much from where I began. I began at about 71 years of age and I wanted to explore what aging meant for me
Mhm.
and who else was out there that was interested at the time in expressing themselves through style and their own personal projection of themselves. Who were those people? Were they out there? Was I the only freak on the planet? And I found there were a whole bunch of people like me, and people who express who they are and are happy to do that, because one of the things that happens as we get older, and those that are listening who may be a little bit older will agree with this, we've gone through our egos being in the penthouse, and we've put the ego in the basement, and we're no longer interested in what people think or say about us. We really quite couldn't give a damn, really. So we're not interested in those things. So we don't have that to play off against. So we're more apt to be more straightforward, more outspoken, and put forward our point of view and have a say. And that's why, for those of us that are like that, this whole thing of, when you go somewhere and people's voices change because they suddenly become, condescending, or they, just the whole dynamics change when you're an older person doing business, or among younger people, or even people, in their 50s. But for those people too, there's some wake-up calls happening. They're being spoken to in ways that is shocking them a little too. So, we definitely need to change our whole perception around what retirement means for us. And we're doing that. We're pushing that ahead as a group of people. The silver economy is doing that. We're also influencing and having a say in and participating in, new ways and new things and new products and services to bring to that economy, to bring to that group of people. And as I said, that's a massive economy. That's huge growth. I mean, you've got it, just simple stuff. Just take a look at cruise ships. Cruise ships have very, very much realised a long, long time ago they cater for the silver economy. I mean, you've got cruise lines like Viking Cruises. Their big thing is no kids, no casinos, because the people that choose to go on their ships, and they've got lots of them and they're super successful, they're providing a service that people who are a little bit older want.
Yeah. Well, and I mentioned about the ego being in the basement, and I find that as you get older, and you can put, and even if you're not getting older, in the rapid sense, when the ego can be put to the side, that's where collaboration can really take hold. And
Oh, yes.
yes, we have the experience and we have the knowledge that maybe we can help to just kind of shape things slightly differently so that it can be used for multiple different methods. Because a lot of people forget that the baby boomers created technology.
Oh, yeah.
Debbi-Jo with Neora. You know what our brand partners love the most about their Neora business? They can do it from anywhere. Think about it. Haven't you always wanted to have your own schedule, be your own boss, maybe even have a global business and be able to run it from your favorite coffee shop or lounging by the pool or seaside, not having to go into the office? We make sure that all of our brand partners have all of the tools they need to run their business while fitting it into their busy lives. So if that's something that you've been curious about, what it might be like for you to be able to do life on your own terms, then I think we need to chat.
And as you get older, people are always giving older generation oh, well, it's technology. They don't know anything about it. Yes. Yes, they do.
Oh, yeah, hell they don't. Hell they don't, I'll tell you. Those of us who, maybe didn't know much about it, sure as hell have taught ourselves.
Exactly.
I mean, when I go and pay for things, most time it's by my phone. I've got my cards installed in the phone, and I just, pay it on my phone. And sometimes, Debbi-Jo, I have a little chuckle to myself just quietly as I walk away, because sometimes the young person on the other end of them, that holding the little machine in their hand, they're just flabbergasted.
As you
And
knew.
somebody my age pulls out their phone and goes click, click, and then pays for it. And they're just like, they do it, but I'm sure, I just see the look on their faces. I'm sure they're like, how does she know how to do that? Yeah. So, technology, but that's true. I think it's a bit like a lot of things too, Debbi-Jo, that, if we can just pull ourselves back a bit and think about the fact that, experience and older people bring a world of knowledge, because what we're doing now and what we've done over this last probably 10, 15, 20 years is we've created a world of people who specialize,
Mm.
because there's been so much information, so much to learn, that it's been a specialist society, that we've got a group of specialists. So people have specific knowledge in specific areas. And you see that, like I studied law, you see that in the legal area where, people, you don't get your old-time lawyer who handled everything because
Mhm.
they knew about everything. It becomes such a bulk of information that it broke off and it's become a specialized thing. So, what you have then is you have older people who have a bigger bulk of knowledge. They have a bigger pot of understanding to pull from, not just specialists. So they can take that and adapt that in companies and in engineering, in all sorts of areas. They can bring in that more broader understanding of things.
Yes.
And, that's a win-win. It's like I always say to people, I have a couple of young people working for me, and I just love it because my attitude is I think up things, I get things going. I'm the entrepreneur and the innovator. I get all that. And, I always say to people, I love working with younger people because they've got the energy and the legs, to put underneath whatever it is that, I can think up or dream up. And that's a good
Exactly.
match.
It is an excellent match. Listeners, I hope that you've been enjoying this conversation with Wallis as much as I have. And before we break away, is there one tip that you can give to our listeners about their attitude or the way they look at the silver economy that will help them in their pursuit of aging?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I think I would just simply say, just look at it as an opportunity. Look, inquire. It's an inquiry. Once you set up an inquiry into something, then you don't know where it leads you. So be happy, be prepared, be enthusiastic enough to inquire. Inquire of things. Google it. Take a look at what's around. Take a look at what's going on. Put it into your computer. If you don't do the computer, you're a little bit older, and your grandchild or your own child does, get somebody to put it in, plug it in, and start exploring and inquiring about what is that? What does that mean? How will that affect my life? What is that about? And you never know where it leads. It's like you walk out the door, you close it, you put your foot on the path. Where are you going? It could take you anywhere. Just get something and do it and see where it leads.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Wallis, for being a very special guest on Advantages to Aging.
You're most welcome, and thank you once again for having me. It's been a delight.
Do you think one of the biggest advantages to aging is all the knowledge we gain along the way? Me too. What did you learn today? Share with me in my Facebook group with the same name as this podcast, Advantages to Aging. Now hit subscribe so you don't miss all the tips to come in future episodes.